The curse of King Béhanzin's ghost army, Abomey, Benin, 1894. The air over Abomey was heavy, not with the scent of war, but with something far older, more sinister. The French forces, emboldened by their victories, camped at the edges of the sacred palace grounds, believing their rifles and cannons would protect them from any final desperate strike from the Kingdom of Dahomey. But they were wrong. It had been months since King Béhanzin had vanished. Some claimed he had fled to the northern jungles. Others whispered that he had taken his own life rather than be captured. Yet those who still lived within the crumbling walls of the Dahomey capital knew the truth. He had not fled, and he had not died. Not truly. In the dead of night, beneath the shadow of the sacred Iroko trees, Moquet, an orphaned scout for the French forces, heard it first, a low, unnatural rumble, like distant thunder crawling through the earth. The soldiers in their camps, laughing, drinking, ignorant of the land's power, felt nothing. But Moquet knew these lands, knew the stories told by the elders, and that sound, it was a warning. Stories of the ghost army had been whispered by the Dahomeyans for centuries, but they had always been dismissed by the invaders as mere superstition. Legends told of warriors so loyal to their king that even in death they would rise to defend their land. Moquet had always doubted these tales until that night. As the moon slipped behind thick clouds, the jungle surrounding the French camp began to shift, a stirring that set the trees rustling, though there was no wind. Moquet crept to the edge of the camp, heart racing. He squinted into the darkness. Then he saw them. Figures moving through the trees, shadows upon shadows, flickering and unnatural. They came silently at first, a slow march of phantoms, barely visible, their bodies transparent but their eyes burning with vengeance. In the lead was a figure clad in tattered royal robes, his crown twisted, rusted, and hanging low on his brow. King Béhanzin. His lips moved, but no words escaped them, just the wind, whispering ancient incantations that chilled the blood. Behind him, the Agoji, the legendary Amazon warriors once feared across the land, moved like predators, their bodies fractured and glowing faintly, the scars of their violent deaths still etched into their ethereal forms. Moquet fell to his knees, his heart slamming against his ribs. This was no battle cry, no rush of warriors eager for the kill. This was something darker, a curse, old as the bones buried beneath the city, seeping up from the underworld itself. The first to die were the sentries. Moquet watched in horror as their screams were swallowed by the night, their bodies crumpling as the ghosts passed through them. It wasn't the weapons of the spirits that killed them, but the cold, the soul-crushing terror of seeing death itself march upon them. One by one, soldiers dropped, their eyes wide, mouths open in silent screams, as if their very souls had been snatched from their bodies. The French commander, Colonel Guérin, staggered from his tent half-drunk, barking orders that fell on deaf ears. His men were paralyzed, their rifles slipping from their fingers as the spectral warriors closed in. Guérin's eyes widened as Behanzin's ghost drew closer, the king's empty gaze locking onto his. In a desperate, futile attempt, Guérin raised his revolver and fired, once, twice, each shot passing through Behanzin's shimmering form without leaving a mark. The colonel's knees buckled as the king raised his hand. Behind him, the Agoji stepped forward, their spirits gleaming like molten iron. They had been trained to kill without mercy in life, and now, in death, they were even more relentless. As Moquet crawled away, heart pounding in his throat, he could hear the soft, eerie song of the Dahomeyan women, a death chant, rising from the ghostly mouths of the Agoji. It filled the air, a lament for their king, for their people, and a promise that the land of Dahomey would never truly fall. Moquet reached the edge of the jungle, gasping for breath. He dared a glance back. The French camp was no more. Where once there had been tents, there was now only darkness, and in that darkness, the faint outlines of the ghost army faded back into the shadows. Well, before they disappeared, Moke saw the king standing atop the fallen bodies, looking straight at him. His voice, cold and distant, cut through the silence.
"This land is mine. Even in death it remains so.